So what did you make of The Lost King?
Well, it's interesting. So something that comes out of that interview is that what Sally Hawkins was saying was that there are two stories. One of them is the story of, the uncovery of the remains of...
The uncovery. That's good. I like that word.
Is that not a word? Uncovery?
The uncovering or the discovery.
The uncover.
You have just started a new
Sorry.
thing. No, that's great.
I thought that up in an airplane station.
That's very
Of
good.
the remains of Richard III. And the other is the story of somebody who is trying to find their own value, their own worth, trying to be taken seriously in a world in which they think that they are sidelined. And the central conceit is that she goes to see the play of Richard III. Richard III is maligned by Shakespeare in his portrayal of him, dogs bark at me, as you heard in that thing. And that because she has ME, she is being, thought of at work as unreliable. People don't take it seriously. She's battling a whole bunch of stuff. And what she needs is some kind of affirmation, but she sees in her situation and that of Richard a kind of similarity, that kindred spirit. So there are two different things to talk about. One of them is, this is a role that Sally Hawkins is almost born to play, because one of the things that she has is a real mix of vulnerability and strength. She has a way on screen of portraying a character who can be almost on the brink of cracking, somebody who can be very, very fragile, but also somebody who has real sturdiness. I'm thinking back to, for example, like a performance in Made in Dagenham, which I absolutely love. And also there's an element of that, I think, in Shape of Water. And then you have the real life story, which is that Philippa Langley herself has said that when she went to the car park, she got goosebumps, and she felt that she was drawn there by something. And everyone going, well, feelings are one thing, but is this really enough reason to dig up the car park? And as Sally Hawkins said, but you know what? She was right. So there is this kind of stranger than fiction twist to the real story, is that although there was a lot of research that would lead you to that car park anyway, and in which she wasn't alone, incidentally, the conviction that she had and the pulling all these things together so that they actually did dig up the bones was driven to some extent by something which felt, supernatural almost. And on the screen, this is represented by the figure of Richard III, inspired by the play, walking around, sometimes on horseback, kind of leading the thing. So she starts having a dialogue. Sally Hawkins said it's an inner dialogue, but it is a dialogue. So we have that. On the other hand, we have the actual relationship to the true story, with which liberties have been taken. I mean, as you probably know if you've followed the press, Leicester University have had their nose put very solidly out of joint about the way in which they are portrayed as basically having, been very, very, dismissive at the beginning and then leaping in and taking credit. So certain people who appear in the cast have felt that they have been, wrongly maligned. And one should say that if you look at Steve Coogan and Jeff Pope's previous work, Philomena, which again was a true story, but with which there were dramatic liberties taken. Martin Sixsmith he went to Washington on his own. Philomena didn't come with him. Also, the character of Sister Hildegard in the film of Philomena is very much villainized. She wasn't actually there because she died before Martin Sixsmith turned up. So there is a history of, rearranging events for dramatic purpose. And there are two separate questions. One of those is, how would that relate to somebody who is still around today who feels that they have been treated wrongly on film? And I think that is one issue. And the other one is, how does it work in terms of the film dramatically? Well, dramatically, it does work. Dramatically, it is the story of somebody who is neglected and overlooked and sidelined and kind of looked down upon, but who follows her own dreams, her own vision, literally her own vision of Richard III, because, you know what? Turns out she was right. So I think it kind of negotiates those two things, and there are two separate arguments to be had about the film as regarding those things. I think sometimes the metaphors are too on the nose. I think the bit when Steve Coogan says, I feel like I've got a gun put to my head, and we cut to a gun firing over it. It's like, okay, Stephen, I heard it the first time. I didn't actually need the large gun going on. I know it's a comic thing. And I think sometimes the sort of the faintly ridiculousness of the character of Richard wandering around, obviously that's kind of serio-comic and it's meant to have a comic side to it, but occasionally it works less well than it should do. And I did feel, even as I was watching it, this feels constructed. I mean, this definitely feels like, we've constructed this as a drama. But Sally Hawkins is the perfect person for that role, and it reminded me of The Dig. You remember the?
Oh, very much so. Yes.
Oh, fine. So it's got a similar kind of, charming whimsicality to it, and at the centre of it, a character who is not taken as seriously as they deserve to be during the course of the drama, proving their worth at least to us, the audience. Then, as it turns out, and in the wider world. So I think it's fun. I don't think it's a masterpiece by any means, but I think it's okay. But I do understand that some people have had their noses put out of joint by it, and I understand that as well.
Yeah.
That's unbelievably balanced of me, isn't it?
It is, really. I think that's unnecessarily balanced. But I do think that the comparison with The Dig will occur to people. It's such an interesting way, how Ralph Fiennes' character just was a bit of an outsider, so therefore got written out by the academic,
yes,
the strong academic types who are used to getting their way and all this kind of stuff. And then the smaller people, in inverted commas, get left behind. And there are similar themes.
I think there is a wider truth about academia and the way in which academia can relate to certain subjects in the world. I think the specific truths here may have been manipulated for dramatic purposes. They certainly look like they have been. Thanks for watching this video. We hope you like watching it as much as we enjoyed recording it. Why not check out these videos while you're here?
To be up to date on all things Kermode and Mayo's Take, follow us on our socials. They're all here below.
I mean, why wouldn't you?
I would, in fact.
Yes, so did I.
Yeah.